Hey everybody, it's your friend Kevin, and this is your vibe of the. All right, then let's get right to today's message, and it is from El Moira, or El Moira, Mora, whatever you want to call this. Anyway, these are from the Oracle deck Keepers of the Light by Kyle Gray, and the images by Lily Moses. I like to give credit where credit is due for the tools that I use and pass along to you. So, what is the message that we get for today in particular? And it still goes along with the feeling of being connected to something higher, bigger, greater, more aligned with who we truly are, our truth. Um, as more and more and more of us move forward, become more spiritual, this card's message is a reminder that whether your belief system is in God or the universe or source or whatever you decide to call, name, or label the divine force that works within you, around you, and about you, this card is suggesting and saying that you don't have to explain yourself, you don't have to acknowledge what you're doing or make a big story up about it. This card is reminding you that you're protected by divine source, by God, by the universe, providing you are exercising your daily spiritual practice, or even invoking it, or even starting it, or even beginning with it on a regular basis. Personally, I think that spiritual protection is important. I think it's a balance between living in the physical world and balancing out the energies of spirit. Just in physical life, there are energies and entities and stories and dramas and nonsense and things that just simply don't align with how we feel. They become really present when there is a great deal of uncertainty, negativity, and doubt out there in the world. But this card and Almoira's message is to remind you that you've got this great soul energy within you, that you've got a light about you. And I've got all the hair on my arms are standing up. So I know that I'm speaking through and with those that are basically here to remind us all that when there is huge transformations happening and there is somewhat of a polarity, which I believe is happening now, right now, and has been for a while. It's one of those rumblings and brewings that was going on probably prior to the pandemic, prior to the COVID, prior to the shutdown, and now it's somewhat raging. Um, I can't, I'm not going to speak to why anything happens, why it doesn't happen. I can probably find it interesting to look at history and see how the convergence of energies happened right before something cataclysmic occurred, whether that become a health crisis like we're in right now, whether it become a war crisis, like countries that decide, yeah, no, we're not going to be controlled, we won't be told what to do, we're going to fight back. Wars, if you will, and disagreements, disharmony. You get that during those times, there was an energy that existed that wasn't particularly pleasant, that sought to combat and rub out what some of these energy sources believed were undesirable. We're now at a place in our culture, the Western culture and the Eastern culture, both cultures, all over the globe, where the technology, the ability to communicate instantly with people everywhere, no matter what time zone they're in, has created a somewhat disruption because of this incredible technology known as the internet. Those cultures that were never open to Western world, to freedom, to the ability to be who you are and say what you want and share yourselves authentically, there are controlling energies that want to shut that down and turn that off. I don't want to get into anything political. I want to stay in my own lane. And my own lane is love. In my own lane is light. My own lane is compassion. My own lane is serving others as I want to be served myself. And I believe purposefully that we find ourselves on a pathway that is lined up with who we are authentically, even in these big, massive transformations. So if you personally find yourself in a position where you're not really sure which way to go, and you are in a conflict with even those people that you live with, that you are around, that you love and you care about, they can have conflicting reactions to what you're doing, particularly if you've chosen something, you're following something, you're passionate about something, and you're going for it. Those feelings that light you up, that open you up, that make you feel like you could dance down the street with no clothes on, those kind of feelings are what is authentic. I'm not saying you should dance down the street with no clothes on. All of those feelings are what light you up. Those feelings are aligning up with you authentically. And once you get some of that momentum, I think I've said before, it's light. Not just lightness, not just joy, not just happiness. And this time of the year where folks are dragging out their decorations, putting up all kinds of nice, fanciful, whimsical things in their homes, at least in the Western culture. I don't know the rest of the world. Celebrating, this life, celebrating the end of the accomplishments of one year and perhaps the beginning of hope and faith that something even better's coming, something more's coming. That energy, that feeling is all in divine alignment. Almora comes and says, you're always spiritually protected, but you have to remind yourself that there are other energies out there that perhaps aren't aligning up with what you're lining up with. Disagreements, arguments. Perhaps you're having such a great day and your life is going well and somebody next to you resents it. They want it. They can't understand why, things are not going well for them. So they're going to come after you because things seem to be going well for you. We can't stop that. We can't stop someone cutting us off in traffic. We can't stop a rude person cutting in front of us in line. We can't stop somebody who feels like it's their way or the highway. We can't stop employers from demanding more from us than we are able to give. What we can do is to remind ourselves to always do our best, to speak our truth, to not try to take things personally. These are like the 4 agreements. Just hold yourself in that higher space of consciousness. And yes, you're going to fall. You're going to notice that judgment kicks in. That's the ego. It's human. It's what you've learned. And yes, perhaps the way you were raised, perhaps the way you were taught, perhaps the way you were believe is the way you think everybody should be, where they're not. So there's that out of balance situation. So just take note that Almora is reminding you that you can keep everything safe, everything protected. Continue doing your daily spiritual practice, meditation, listening to good music, raising your vibration, taking a walk in nature. The biggest thing for me personally that I will share with you is to be grateful. Grateful for the blessings that happen, even if they're tiny. Even if you happen to turn a corner and see a bunch of paperwhites or whatever that is that is unusual. Perhaps a bird pops out from from a shrub or a hedgerow or something and just looks right at you and chirps, whatever that is. These are these tiny reminders that you're okay, everything's fine, nothing's really going wrong. And when you come across somebody who does appear to be not in a great space, you may not know them, you could light up their world simply with a smile. You could light up their world by just saying, I think it's going to be okay, no matter what it is you think that they're going through. Anyway, let's read from Melody Beattie's Journey to the Heart and go about our day. We are at December the 3rd on this video. Let go of leftover guilt. I'm not sure how that plays into this card, but we're about to find out. Why do you feel guilty when you're doing what you've been led to do? That nagging, gnawing feeling of guilt is leftovers. Leftovers from another period when we didn't love ourselves. It's left over from another time when we didn't trust ourselves. It's left over from another place when we didn't know life could be fun, easy, natural, and joy. Feeling guilty and anxious about this new thing you're doing, that new place you're going, that new adventure that you're on as part of your resistance to the lesson, part of your shying back from the idea that you truly, absolutely, and fundamentally love yourself and enjoy all parts of your life. Soon you'll see that you've been led to the very place you're at right now. The very thing you are feeling guilty and anxious about is the very thing you've been led to do to take you on your next adventure. Life is abundant. We can bask in self-love and the healing resources around us. Our movements, our activities, our days, our hours, our nights can flow freely, easily, naturally, abundantly. And we can do these things we're led to do without feeling guilty. Recognize the guilt and anxiety of resistance as just that, resistance. Then let go. Go on your journey of love without spoiling it with guilt. I love that. And I think that does tie in with this card. That you can, and I've got goosebumps again, so I know that's a good yes. You can be yourself. You can dance around in joy. You can have that authentic, upbeat feeling of I've done it, I've landed it, I've got what I wanted. You can put out these audacious desires. You're allowed to. You are entitled to. It's part of really what you're here to do. If the guilt comes because perhaps somebody else is suggesting that you don't really understand, or as I've been accused of being out of touch, that's okay. I'm learning to dance through the judgment of other people. It's tough because I have to look back at what was my intention to begin with. And that can also be tough because there's times with which I know my intentions were not honorable, that my thoughts, my feelings, my judgments were, I don't know that I was that kind. Quickly, immediately, when I realize it, understand it, if I'm able to connect with the person I said those things to, or talked about, or had those feelings on, I'm going to step back and do a redo, a retake. I acted out of reaction and I should not have done that, and that was unkind, and I am sorry. You know, oftentimes when people share things with us, their fears, their woes, their anxieties, their guilt, their shame, they're sharing. They want to get it out. They want to let us know about it. And instead of listening generously with an open, loving, kind heart and saying, yep, okay, let's get more out of you so that we can let this go, put it in a bubble and burst it, or we go and interject ourselves and put our opinions in there and tell us what we think they should do. Guilty. That's not really our place. We can hold space, listen generously, be open-hearted, bounce back the love, And sometimes the kind words may not resonate right there in the present moment, but it might on the way home in the car. It might the next morning. It might that evening. You'll be surprised when you share the love and the light within you with those who perhaps are not feeling it. They can get some of that somehow. All right, listen, until next time, lots of love to you, peace, harmony, all that good stuff. Stay safe, be kind. Bye.